Chapter 126 Rainment of Light. It was at this moment that the audience finally took notice of them. There was no need to even mention how much of a miserable state the two siblings were in. Disregarding Xiaohingchen, even Meng Ongen's mouth and nose were covered in bloodstains. They seemed to have come to their senses at this moment, but they couldn't do anything other than reveal the shock in their eyes. Xiaohingchen suddenly let out a muffled groan, and he directly fell to the floor. However, his eyes were actually filled with infatuation the moment before he collapsed. However, Meng Hingchen's eyes were only filled with shock. She couldn't believe that the city overthrowing beauty that made even her look inferior was created by a fusion skill. The peerless beauty descended from the sky and swiftly landed in front of the duo, a chilly intent radiating from her golden eyes as she did so. At this moment, Meng Hingchen was finally able to clearly see the characters on the peerless beauty's forehead. This character was clearly a trident, and it was very small, seemingly only an inch wide. Moreover, it quietly faded as the peerless beauty landed. However, it left behind a noble sense of awe on her forehead, though it had only existed for a brief moment. Goodbye. The young lady's red lips rose gently. With a gentle sweep of her wings, a three-colored halo of light immediately covered Xiaohingchen and Meng Hingchen's bodies. However, it didn't seem to hurt them. It only sent their bodies off the tournament stage. Meng Hingchen didn't try to resist it. Due to Xiaohingchen's heavy injuries, Hingchen's yearning had been unleashed using her own soul power only. Furthermore, after it was forcefully interrupted by Huo Yuao and Wang Dong's spiritual storm, they were struck with a heavy backlash. At this moment, they truly didn't possess any fighting strength at all. The tricolored butterfly wings vanished, and the peerless beauty moved towards the very center of the tournament stage with a flash. A layer of frost formed wherever she passed. Wang Yan observed everything from below the tournament stage with a flabbergasted look in his eyes. He murmured, We won? Elder Sun, we won. We're the champions. We're truly the champions." His voice was trembling. When he uttered his last sentence, he was already shouting in a hysterical manner. Elder Sun was no calmer than Wang Yan. Every single wrinkle on his aged face seemed to be filled with vitality as he said, How did they do it? Was what they just used a fusion skill? Right. Wang Yan said excitedly, I was the only person who they told about that last fusion skill. If I'm not mistaken, Huo Yuao said that fusion skill was produced when his ice jade scorpion fused with Wang Dong's radiant butterfly goddess. It is called the solitary dance amidst frost, Rainment of Light. I didn't think that a fusion skill would be this beautiful. This is also the only fusion skill they possess which is controlled by Wang Dong. We've won. The peerless beauty landed right in front of the heaven fiend Douluo. However, this great referee still had a dazed look in his eyes as he looked at this young lady, whose age seemed to be in the double digits. His voice was clearly somewhat hoarse as he said, Yes, You've won. After speaking, Huang Hain seemed to slip slightly. He was only able to regain his footing after stabilizing himself. Spiritual storm wasn't just a pure spiritual type attack, but an attack that could directly go through an opponent's spiritual seed to unceasingly attack their spirit by using various memories. It didn't do something as simple as destroying a target's spirit, but affected their consciousness. Although Huang Hain was a titled Douluo, he had endured far too many things in his life. He had watched his close relatives and friends die one by one, and he had buried that pain deep in his heart. As he didn't make any preparations to block Huo Yuao and Wang Dong's spiritual storm, Huang Hain was affected much more than Xiaohingchen and Meng Hingchen. The tricolored light vanished, and the peerless beauty once again turned into a bright, colorful halo. The halo of light quietly dissipated, revealing the two figures who were hugging each other. They were extremely pale, and they were both supporting and nestling up against each other as they quietly stood there. The tattoo of the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion on Huo Yuao's back slowly faded away. However, Wang Dong had already fallen into a deep sleep against his chest. Only the golden trident on his forehead flickered quietly for a bit. However, Huo Yuao wasn't able to see all this. Although he was barely able to stand up while supporting Wang Dong, overexhausting his body had caused him to gradually lose all 6 of his senses. He only felt a patch of darkness around him, but he didn't feel any regret. At this moment, he only felt excitement and happiness. His last memory was that of him tightly hugging Wang Dong while standing on the tournament stage of the finals of the Continental Advanced Academy Soul Dueling Tournament with his back straight. At this exact moment, he felt as though his spiritual sea had been upgraded to a higher level amidst this happiness. Right after that, he didn't know what happened. At this moment, an uproarious cheer completely covered the entire tournament stage. Every single member of the audience had reddened faces due to their excitement. All of the waiting and hardships they had to endure were all worth it. In their opinion, the finals of this tournament could no longer be simply described using the word marvelous. On the contrary, it was a classic that would be eternally engraved within their hearts. This was especially so for the curtain call, with Huo Yuao and Wang Dong releasing their fourth fusion skill, the city overthrowing peerless beauty formed by their solitary dance amidst the frost. Rainment of Light had been deeply engraved in all of their hearts. She was too beautiful, simply too beautiful. That was a type of beauty that simply didn't belong to the world of mortals. Perhaps that was simply the descent of the goddess of light. Every single person had a different definition of what a goddess was in their minds, but at this moment, that had all been replaced by the young lady who had been dancing alone amidst the frost. The figure of that peerless beauty had even been elevated to the level of worship in many of their hearts. That figure possessed a combination of beauty and strength, and was the most dazzling figure within the fight. Everything that had just occurred was simply too astonishing. The heaven-beinged Douluo Huang Jingsu forcefully took a deep breath, then forcefully shoved the scenes which were unceasingly flickering through his mind to the depths of his spiritual sea. He said loudly, the 2-2-3 match has ended, and the winner is Shrek Academy. This year's Continental Advanced Academy Soul Dueling Tournament has come to an end. The final winner is the representative team from Shrek Academy. The sounds of cheering were brought to a peak following his announcement. The entirety of the Douluo Plaza was now boiling, and even many of the aristocrats and ministers who stood on the city walls couldn't help but yell out. Chapter 126.2 Rainment of Light. The Douluo Emperor, Shu Jiawei, had a somewhat flushed expression as well, as he was also extremely excited. The image of that empire overthrowing beauty had been embedded in the depths of his heart as well. The White Tiger Duke was much calmer than him. He began to mutter to himself as he looked at the pair of youths who were embracing each other. A willpower as tough as steel. They'll definitely become very useful in the future. The entire plaza had already turned into a sea of boiling emotions. Due to the heavy injuries suffered by both participating teams, the award ceremony had to be delayed. The Taddy Douluo, Elder Sun, had already appeared by the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, blocking their path forward. None of you are allowed to leave. Dispel the poison inflicted on my disciples first. Elder Sun had a very cold and solemn gaze in his eyes, and he still held Ma Shatta, who was flickering with the flames of the Dark Phoenix, in his embrace. The teacher in charge of the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy was still somewhat confused about the entire matter. Since everything had happened so quickly, he didn't know just how they had lost the final match that they were originally guaranteed to win. The instant he saw that peerless beauty take the stage, Xiaohingchen and Meng Hingchen were sent down from the stage. Why had Wang Dong and Huo Yuao not hurt Meng Hingchen? This was because they wanted her to dispel the poison in their teammates' bodies. Did you not hear what I just said? As he's speaking, Elder Sun made a grabbing motion towards Meng Hingchen. Wait a moment. The teacher in charge hurriedly blocked the path to Meng Hingchen. If possible, he truly wanted to resist Elder Sun. He truly didn't wish to allow the absolutely astonishing members of Shrek Academy to continue living. The higher the hopes one had toward a certain thing, the larger the disappointment would be if one failed to achieve it. The pain he currently felt was similar to that of falling down from a tall mountain. He had to stay strong as the teacher in charge of his team, but he couldn't. He didn't dare. He truly didn't dare to obstruct Elder Sun at this moment. Xiaohingchen was now unconscious, while Meng Hingchen had suffered heavy injuries. If he couldn't bring them back, he wouldn't face a consequence as simple as losing his own life. Even his family would be implicated in this matter. Elder Sun, this is only a competition. I'll dispel the poison in your students' bodies. The teacher in charge forcefully suppressed the grief he felt in his heart and enunciated each word carefully. Elder Sun nodded and said coldly, that'd be for the best. Also, give me that sword that Ma Rulon used earlier. The teacher's expression immediately changed. That won't be possible. That's a class 8 soul tool that our Sun Moon Empire's illustrious virtue hall forged. Its value is inestimable. Let me ask you this. Are you going to give it, or not? Elder Sun's voice was as cold and tough as ever, and he didn't release any pressure either. However, his mere question caused the teacher to start sweating to the point where his shirt was drenched. Elder Sun didn't look at him, but the unconscious Xiao Chen. The teacher's voice trembled somewhat as he said, Elder Sun, you are but a transcendent Douluo. Don't tell me that you are going to bully the weak and make things difficult for us of the younger generation. Elder Sun said indifferently, this old man disdains to do something like that, but you two have seen what has happened to the child in my hands. Xiao Tao was affected by that soul tool of yours, causing a variation to her martial soul. It's hard to say whether she'll even be able to continue living. I won't bully the weak. I'll find that old fellow from the illustrious virtue hall to explain things to him. These two kids should be his grandkids. I'll bring them back to Shrek Academy, and you can call that old bastard of yours to find me in Shrek Academy. With that, he made a grabbing motion towards the unconscious Xiao Chen. Don't, I'll give you what you want. The teacher in charge of the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy nearly shattered the steel teeth in his mouth. How could he dare to let Elder Sun take Xiao Chen and Meng Chen away? If they were brought back to Shrek Academy, would they even be able to come back in one piece? When compared to the Judgment Sword, the Chen siblings were clearly much more important to the Sun Moon Empire. The Judgment Sword quickly fell into Elder Sun's hands. Supervised by Elder Sun, Meng Chen had no choice but to recover her soul power using a milk bottle and save the people who had fallen unconscious due to the vermilion clear isode's venom whilst she was in an extremely exhausted state. Fortunately, due to the fact that Michael had been struck by Bei's clustered soul-chasing balls, she didn't make any vicious moves for fear of letting her teammate die of poisoning. Otherwise, the poison of her vermilion clear isode could have been fatal. In the end, Elder Sun left the other party with a bit of face. At the very least, he let the awakened Bei dispel Michael's poison and helped dispel the poison from the oxhair needle. Only then did both parties settle the various issues that had resulted from the match. Naturally, this was only on the surface. As for any repercussions which would occur as a result of this, they didn't bother caring about them for the time being. The fervent atmosphere in the Douluo Plaza lasted for several hours. Due to the several thousand soldiers maintaining order within the city, the common folk gradually dispersed. For the sake of ending the crowded condition of the Douluo Plaza, the Douluo Emperor made a decree stating that the awards ceremony would not be open for public viewing. With this decree sent out, the common folk of Douluo City began to leave. After all, a large majority of them didn't stay in the city itself. Moreover, the cramped conditions in the city had caused commodity prices to rise to a terrifying level. Without anything nice to see, would there be any meaning left in staying there? Due to the astonishing performances of Shrek Academy and the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy in the finals, the defenses of the Grand Imperial Star Hotel had been strengthened threefold. This was done to keep the masses from charging right into it as a result of their surging emotions. However, Hua Yua didn't know about any of this. By the time he woke up from his coma, it was already the afternoon of the day after. How uncomfortable. Coughing, Hua Yua gradually woke up from his deep sleep, his eyes still somewhat dazed. He only felt his entire body go soft, as though all of his energy had been sucked away. Not only that, but all of his muscles were in an extremely sore state. Even after sleeping for so long, he didn't seem to have any signs of recovering his soul power. This feeling of having everything sucked out from my body is really uncomfortable. Hua Yua wasn't feeling anxious at all. As his consciousness gradually recovered, he discovered that although he had severely overexhausted his body, he felt extraordinarily clear-headed after waking up. The memories of everything that had just occurred were clearly returning to him after he woke up, and he quickly remembered him and Wang Dong defeating their opponents in the finals. We should have won. We're the final champions. We've protected Shrek Academy's glory. His excitement caused his eyes to gradually light up. The current Hua Yua had just noticed that something had changed in his spiritual sea. As he gazed deep into himself, he was immediately overjoyed. His spiritual sea had increased in size by 25% at the very least. Not only that, but his spiritual power had become more condensed, and even the golden lights in his spiritual sea had brightened somewhat. At this exact moment, a figure suddenly appeared in Hua Yua's mind. It had a head of pinkish blue long hair, a set of golden eyes, and peerless looks, as well as a faintly discernible golden trident. Was she really the descent of the radiant goddess? Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.